Hi, everybody. So, the East-West Luxury Superhighway, a turbocharged Silk Road for the 21st century, if you will. Everybody in this room is on this road in some capacity, probably some more than others, but I do feel like this year, more than ever before, most globally minded luxury brands have had to think about how to balance the explosive growth and volatility of Asia with their established footholds in other markets. So who are the winners and the losers in this new two-way reality? And how do the people that are making the relationships along this highway feel that they're taking the direction of the road, in what direction it's going? So let's start. We've got Thierry Andretta, who is the CEO of Mulberry. Then we've got Dennis Chan, the founder and creative director of Keelin. And last but not least, we've got Joanne Cheng, who is the chair of the Fosun Fashion Group, and more recently, the chair of Lanvin, the French fashion house. So I wanted to start with you, Thierry. You made a decision in September to move your show, your biannual fashion show, off the London Fashion Week schedule, and instead you decided to move it to Seoul. Quite a big call. Why?
A few reasons. First of all, in my case, we are more west going east, so that's the first reason. The second reason was to be really close to our consumer on what is called a see now, buy now occasion. We call consumer event, so it means that we work more than 2 years to change all our calendar and to be ready when we do a consumer event to have 100% of the product available worldwide. And that's really important. The second reason, moving to Asia, because for sure the luxury consumer growth is coming from Asia. The majority is coming from here. And then also we want to approach in a different way what we call the digital generation. Because it's a little wider than the millennial that the people use. On the other side, they really want immediacy in the product available. And for us, there was also the reason because we were expanding our network in Asia, especially related to omnichannel. Just to understand for everyone, Mulberry, we do 17% online business, and is particularly working extremely well where we have an omnichannel experience. That is really interacting with your online and offline network. We want to expand this also in Asia. So 1.5 years ago, we were controlling 1 store in Asia. Today, we have 29 stores available, and by the end of the year, we will be at 32, 33 related to opening. So this was quite important. The other thing that I think is relatively interesting is to understand how this changes when you move a little bit outside the fashion week if you want to target a digital customer. Because we did the first test of this kind of consumer event in London in February, and we were able to reach between a consumer event, so an event during London Fashion Week. We have a pop-up store in the location of the event, and we have a workshop that were fully booked before starting with a capacity of a room. In that case, we reached 60 million contacts. That is quite impressive. We have a second brand after Burberry that has a slightly different budget than ours. When we did the event, that was September 6th, so one reason why I'm highlighting the date, September 6th is out of every fashion week, mostly related to Asia consumer and something. We were able, with the same format that was an event, a party after the event, pop up in the location of the event. There was a museum of contemporary art in Korea. And then we have 2 pop-up in Corso-Como in Korea and in wholesale, plus all our network with a product available, all our network digital worldwide, and all our network brick and mortar worldwide. We were able to reach over 300 million contacts. So this was quite impressive. And that's the reason why we are now really moving in Asia to reach more the global consumer of luxury.
Dennis, you launched Keelin in 2004, I believe, largely because you felt like there wasn't a brand that was currently trying to reach out to Chinese consumers. What was the landscape like? How were luxury brands trying to reach Chinese consumers in 2004?
Yeah, at that time, I think most of the luxury brands are from the West. And then it's seldom you could find any brand which is related to kind of Oriental culture. And at that time, it's about 1997, I could remember. is Hong Kong returning to China, and that is the first time I set foot into China. And there is a very interesting trip that I made, which is to Silk Road. Have you been? Yeah. Silk Road. And then it's in the middle of the China and Europe, and 1,000 years ago, and that is the trading post, and everybody stopped there, kind to have their supply. And I visited that place, and I found a lot of interesting, like a temple, which is built into the caves. And I was so moved over there because I saw a lot of design, not only on the statue, on the Buddhas, but also on the wall, on the mirrors, which is reflecting the lifestyle of Chinese people 1,000 years ago. And you can see how they dress, how they make up, what kind of jewelry that they put on. So it moves me a lot. And I think, okay, in the world, I couldn't find something similar to that. And I really want to bring out that essence and make it into something contemporary, to have this Oriental essence, but yet it's wearable. So this is how start creating my brand.
But something I noticed that's quite interesting is that when you actually launched the brand, you chose to launch in France. Yes. So can you tell me about why you did that?
Yeah, I think everybody knows about the Olympic Games. We want to run in the Olympic Games rather than a local competition. So, and when you're talking about luxury, I think the first city that you could think of, I would say Paris. And then from day one, when I launched Keilin, I aim at the international brand, but not a local brand. So that's why I want to bring the brand to this international arena so that it could be exposed to people much more easier.
But did you feel that launching in Paris, the home of luxury, gave it an added credibility with Chinese consumers as well?
I believe so. I think this has come very naturally because I think at that moment, I mean, even now I could say that a lot of Oriental people, particularly Chinese, we are still very much looking up to European brands. And then because they are all having their own, it's not only the product itself, it's more about the culture, the philosophy behind and all that. So I think Chinese people will be more fond of something that we start up in Europe. So this is the kind of like original idea that I have.
Joanne, you've been spending more time in Paris this year, haven't you? Lanvin, you purchased that in February. Can you tell us a little bit about that purchase and why you decided to buy it?
Okay, I mean, next year it would be Lanvin's 130 years anniversary. So you can understand, you know, the strong brand equity of Lanvin, and the brand is so loved by the public. So when we look at the brand, we consider that it's really a good brand, and we would like to contribute our efforts to build up the brand.
But it's in a bit of a troubled place, so you've got a lot of work on your hands. Was that a challenge that you wanted to take on?
Yeah, I mean, Fosun Fashion Group is actually more like a relatively international group. So we have St. John in the States, we have Caruso in Italy, you know, so we travel quite a lot. That's quite a lot for daily work for us as a team. Yeah.
Have you got any more investments on the horizon?
I mean, Fosun as a group is more focused on family. So we are building up a whole ecosystem around happiness, health, and wealth. So that actually we are focused on consumer lifestyle. You can see that our investment range is relatively wide. So I think we definitely will have an opportunity to further look at how to explore our portfolio and build, you know, happiness to consumers' lifestyle.
One of the most interesting things for me listening to the keynote this morning was listening to Mr. Chu talk about one of the biggest challenges for him, which was the cultural differences that he encountered as he expanded. You know, on this superhighway that we're all on, do you find that too? What are the major challenges, I guess, with constantly working with partners from other cultures and other places?
For me? Okay, all right. So actually, I mean, challenges is quite a strong word. I would like to say it's quite interesting instead of a challenge. because I mean, now we are more globalized, even including China. There's a lot of Chinese people travel around, and for us, when we work with our partners and investors all over the world, we always maintain like a learning attitude. Means that it's a long way to go. We will stay humble and patient. We like to learn from each other. I mean, for us, my major purpose for my team is to build the gap, build the bridge to mitigate the gap between different cultures. So I think this is like a very good learning curve for us instead of challenge. Yeah.
I mean, Dennis, Kering have been early investors in you, haven't you? So what are they like? Are they fairly hands-on? Do they leave it to you?
I think the lucky thing is that they are very, give me a lot of hand-free, that free hand, and then in terms of creativity, I think it's still very much not touching what we try to do, which is very helpful. And then on top of that, of course, we can access a lot of information which we couldn't access before, and also to help us like branding, building like a brand platform, and then to know more about where we should open shops and all that. So, which is very helpful. I think especially smaller brand like ourselves with a very strong character, I think the free hand is important.
And we've talked already, Terry, about the importance of your joint venture partners in Korea. Is Korea your second largest market?
It will be our second largest market because we just integrate. But going back to the question that you were asking, I think that also in our side is really important to keep the global approach with a local, let me say, adaptation. And this is quite important because it passes through having local partners that are coming from the countries. Quite interesting in Mulberry because we have a kind of multicultural, multinationality headquarters in London. So till now we were able every time to find someone that understands the brand from a British point of view, but that were originally from the country where we were opening our JV. And so this is quite interesting because it's really perfectly fitting both because every market needs a local adaptation and you really need a local approach in a certain way.
And that is something, though, that is a challenge, that balance of maintaining heritage and consistency and one brand across many markets with different tastes. I mean, how do you do that?
This is really going back to the DNA of a brand that in our case for sure is a lot of Britishness. And Britishness has also a big advantage because it's also a contradiction in terms of country, a contradiction in terms of culture because we still have a queen, extremely important. So there are a lot of tradition, really old century tradition, but on the other side, it was in Europe, the country that developed a lot of new things. So let me say the rock music in Europe is coming from the UK. Some social phenomenon quite impressive, a miniskirt start in the UK, even if it's not 100% fashion considered country. So it's quite interesting to play this kind of game, and we try to play this game in everything that we do, including the store concept that is now with a new and full color palette, typical British, having elements from British tradition and what I call British contradiction. So modernity mixed to all the things. So this is quite interesting in our case, and I think we are really trying to transfer this worldwide as a perception of a brand.
Dennis, you were mentioning to me that sort of in terms of your next frontier of expansion, you're looking at places like the US and Canada as well. I mean, how are you changing your approach in those markets as opposed to your core market over here?
And I think in terms of direction, I think we still very much maintain our original plan, I mean, in terms of design and direction. So we won't particularly create special products for different markets. Like even you can see our main market is still very much China, but then when we entering into Southeast Asia or like America, like what you said, we are using the same kind of approach and direction. Even in terms of social medias and all that, still same direction. Because now I think the language that we are using in design is very much international. We have a very strong Chinese accents, heritage, but still the presentation and then the application is very international, so that I don't think that we have to especially adjust to a certain market.
Joanne, Well, in terms of how do you, when Asia is clearly such a focus, how do you make sure you maintain balance across markets and think about how you tailor your approaches to different regions?
Right. I mean, like Dennis said, I think first of all, we really respect the brand DNA because that is the root of the brands. We will respect the traditions, but however, the whole world is changing so fast, and especially, the luxury segment is now talking about the millionaires. So that our balance would be respect the DNA, the traditions, but we also want to adapt the brand into the new world and the new generation, so that we could think about a different media approach, social media, marketing tools, or sometimes we really think about how we bring newest to the creativity side of the brands. So that, I mean, we keep involving the brands, would like to say, be more dynamic in the, face to the young generation.
Something that we heard about this morning and that a lot of us have been thinking about is the volatility in the Asian markets at the moment. Particularly, we've seen a lot of volatility with the luxury stocks. There's a lot of uncertainty about where Chinese consumption is going. How much are you all thinking about that volatility here in Asia and how it might impact on your business?
I think as a Fosun, we rooted in China. So basically, we grow up in China. We are more faster in Asia to adapt the Asia and the China market. And for the brands, I think it's important for us to say, create a value for them in the Asian market on the basis of keep the DNA of the brand equity. So I think we will have, we will set up a very strong service team or, back office team in Asia to support the brand growth in Asian market.
Thierry, how do you prepare for the unpredictable?
For us, let me say, it's only a growing a positive future in front because we were not really well distributed before. So the fact that now we have around 30 stores here is important, and one of the reasons why we did this is really what we call the omni-channel experience. So we are even able to reach the digital generation because we are under-indexed compared to our peers in digital sales. They represent 17%, as I was explaining. I think this year we will go even higher despite the things. So having omni-channel means also that Asia is now instrumental because we have local fulfillment, local platform in Japan. We have local fulfillment, local platform in Hong Kong, we have in China, and we are working omni-channel. On top of this, for sure in China, to reach the generation, you cannot count on only in our case, Mulberry.com. You need also to play with a big player. And so we are in JD.com, we are in Seiko, we are in few things, and I think we will complete the extension to a pure player in digital that are relevant for the market. So let me say that from our point of view is only a growing phase because we are able to reach the new customers that are mostly on digital, and we have a network that is mostly a base just to offer a good omni-channel experience.
How long do you think it will take before you have the access to Chinese consumers that you want to have? Historically, Western brands have been very cautious on coming onto e-commerce platforms in China. That seems to be changing.
We have access even now because all our European and American business made about 40% with Asian tourists buying outside. So there is a brand awareness, and I think that due to our peculiarity in the UK, every Chinese, and we have tons that are coming in UK to study English, have access to the brand because we do close to 70% of our business in UK with a real complete distribution because in UK we do only 25% of our business in London and 75% is really around the country. So there is a kind of brand awareness that is growing little by little. So this is quite important, but I think that now to have local operation and let me say evident presence in the digital platform will increase and will expedite and accelerate all this kind of process.
Dennis, where do you do most of your sales? Are they online or in store, and how do you see that changing?
It's still very much in store. I think in our business is a bit different because jewelry is very intimate. and then I mean, price point is a bit high as well. I think the customer would really love to feel the product, to touch it before they make a purchase. And although we know that the online sales platform is important, but we are not in a hurry to rush into that. And then maybe step by step.
Joanne, with brands like Lanvin, how are you sort of prioritizing your investments? Are you going to build up a store network? I mean, you're going to get a creative director. You know, what are the priorities there?
I mean, this is like an overall strategy and a plan. Of course, retail is super important for luxury brands, but also we are talking about you know, integrated strategy, including our supply chain, our brand positioning, creativity side, of course, and then our social media approach that to attract a young generation and maintain our recent customers. So that, I mean, this is like a big plan.
Are those decisions being made in China or in Paris?
I mean, it's like one team between Paris and China, because you know, we have our management team in Paris. They cover the day-to-day business and operations. Of course, we have as like a holding company, we also like keep close communication with the management team, means like with the CEO, and think about what's the strategy for the brand. So this is like a joint decision or strategy for the overall. Yeah.
I think this is one of the definitive characteristics, though, of the superhighway, isn't it? Is that now more than ever before, executives need to travel back and forth. You can't necessarily do everything, though, by video phone or by Skype. I mean, you guys must spend your entire time on planes. Is that important? Do you feel it's important to be in Asia all the time to see the business grow?
I think it's extremely important because things are changing and evolving on a day basis. So I personally spend 40% of my time, and let me say that the last 1.5 years was fully focused on Asia, more than in the other mature market where we have a network, where we have an omni-channel digital experience. So because here is where we want to build the future, and so necessarily I need to spend more time here.
And Dennis, are you always on the road? But I guess more in China, because you told me you were sort of traveling more to secondary and tertiary cities now.
Yes, I think in my case, I think kind of I'm the spokesperson for the brand. So I think when I'm facing media and also I'm facing new customer, I think it's better for me that I could meet them face to face, and then to understand more about what they are looking for, and more for them to understand what the brand is like and what we are offering. So then the like second and third tier cities in China is now we are start developing, and at the same time we are start developing the Southeast Asia market, as well as the North America. So that means a lot of traveling. You're right.
And when you are reaching those new consumers, though, you've mentioned how important stores are for you, but what else are you doing in sort of secondary and tertiary cities to attract new consumers and introduce them to the brand?
I think it is important to let them know more about the details and the brand through the explanation. And then that's why for me to go there to meet them is important, especially local media, because they could convey the message for you much stronger. And then that's why I still feel the importance of that.
We touched just now on South Asia, around sort of Southeast Asia and the surrounding region. How important are places like Singapore in terms of future growth of sort of Asian luxury market?
Yeah. All right. So yeah, of course. I mean, Asia is you know, an important market for luxury segment. So that, you know, we want to build up more connections between the Asian audience versus the Western brands, because you know, this is like a global strategy for Western brands. Look at, you know, how to adapt themselves in Asian market. So that, I mean, for Fosun, we are also set up this whole ecosystem, including from, you know, we so-called the key, one of the key strategy for our group is C2M, means customer to maker.
What does that mean?
means that we will build more connection from customer to smart manufacturing. And then this is based on infrastructure, like build up more strong CRM system, social media, online, e-com. And then also this will empower the supply chain, which will give better offer to the customers. So that I think this is our overall integrated solution. Says we will do more customization, and then we will make a better offer. Yeah.
Something else that we heard earlier that I think is interesting, and Dennis, you're already leading here, is where the future of sort of luxury creativity is going to go, and will we see more and more design emanating from Asia, and how that might change the market? What do you think, Dennis?
First, I mean, for our own brand, we are very strong interpreting Chinese heritage. And I could see around in China and in Asia, there is a lot of new talents, which is very much like developing into that area. I'm so happy to see that, because we are kind of like the first one to do like a modern Chinese interpretation. But I think the creativity is no limit. And I would really love to see other talents in fashion, lifestyle, like even watch and jewelry, developing a different aspect, and then it makes the market more healthy.
Is there a lot of curiosity in Asia for sort of homegrown Chinese luxury brands?
I could feel that.
Thierry, I mean, you're based in London, so am I. Every time I go to a graduate show from Central St Martin's, London College of Fashion, there's always at least 40 to 50% of the class are Asian students and Asian graduates. Do you see a sort of a migration of Asian students coming into the Western luxury brands now, and do you think that could change things?
Absolutely, yes. We have a lot. Our creative director is Spanish. I consider him more French than Spanish. But he's also tutoring St. Martin's in design. And we are really looking both every kind of, let me say, fashion school all over Europe to attract talent. And in our design team, there are a lot of talents coming both from China, ex-Russian Republic, we have from Korea. We have people for sure from France, from Italy. So it's really today a multinational things that I think and consider that mostly every brand has, because it's really the way that is working to interacting in terms of design, also considering on a global strategy the local needs, that are small adaptation.
And Joanne, across the Fosun Fashion Group, are you seeing more and more Asian talent rising through the ranks?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think there's Western brands enter into China, build up, the brand equity, and talk to more wide Asia audience. But there's a lot of Asia talent, especially from the emerging brands or young designers. They want to get on a global stage and shining themselves. So I think there's very much opportunities for us during the whole process, like a cross-pollination of the creativity side between Western and the East.
I'm going to ask you one more question, so get yours ready, you know the drill. Looking forward, what are going to be some of the key shifts in the Asian luxury market that could impact on your business? We heard last week about Alibaba's partnership with Richemont. We've obviously heard a lot about trade wars. What are you paying attention to, and what could change the direction of the superhighway? You can start.
I can start. But I personally think that it will move more and more on omni-channel because everyone is a little bit questioning how many point of sales in terms of brick and mortar you need to have to cover the country. But the new generation is really coming more and more strong in digital. So from our point of view, it's really related to the digital experience, the omni-channel experience, because you need to offer a top level of service that must be absolutely luxurious. That is something that everyone is working because it's not yet there where it must be. So everyone has his own interpretation. And for us, we consider this related to Asian consumer in general because the new generation is really coming from digital more than having a particular passion for shopping on a brick and mortar network.
So that's going to be your key area of investment
Yes,
then?
absolutely.
Digital, social media.
Digital, social
platforms.
media, omni-channel in the right way.
Dennis?
Yeah, I think no matter what the economic situation is, people is keep on shopping. And I think it's very important to make the right product at the right timing. And then I mean, sometimes I don't really affected by outside factors a lot. I think keep your own DNA, create something surprising, something interesting. There will be always a market to it. And then like what Terry said earlier about the social media, I think it's very important how to convey this message to people.
When you are in uncertain times, do you notice certain products spike or fall? Are there any things that stay consistent? Because your price range is very broad, right?
Yes, we do. And actually, as I said earlier, particular price point, particular product will be fitting particular people. So I think you build a very good spectrum of product with the right DNA, with the right surprising elements, interesting. I think that's important.
And Joanne?
Yeah, I think the industry would be more data-driven. So we know that we just passed the Double 11 in China. So Alibaba announced that they get like a 30 billion sales over a Double 11. And I also, read some news about there's hundreds of millions active, users online, and then about like at least 1/6 of these online active users already consumed or have interest to consume luxury brands, and then over 70 of them could be millionaire. And then within the millionaire, 30 of them could be with the age from 19 to 25. So there's a lot of data around the whole industry. I think it's quite important for us is to, like Thierry said, is to go digital.
To look at the data and
right.
personalized approaches.
Correct, yeah.
Who's got a question for the panel? We've got one over here.
Thank you. My name is Thomas Wong. I'm a local from Hong Kong, but our organization is based in UK. And I see that at the panels, we have very famous brand from the West doing something new and important in the East, in Korea. And we have a local brand in Hong Kong, Asia, going to the West and then come back to China. And then we have Chinese just go to acquire long history, 100 years old Western brand. So my question is very simple. My question is this: do we see in the future the origin of a brand is becoming less important, but other elements, other dimensions such as design, fashion designers becoming more important than the origin of the brand itself? Thank you.
That's a great question. I'd like to start.
I can start.
Go on.
I think the most important thing is to respect the DNA of a brand and the country where it's coming. And then you really need to have, at least in our case, we consider that we need to have a local, let me say, adaptation, but on a global approach. And then I totally agree. The brand is less and less relevant. But anyway, luxury by definition is established worldwide. So no one has a particular market. You can have a market that is a little stronger than other, but you are playing a global game. So that's my point.
What about you, Joanne? How important is origin going to be in the next 50 years or so?
I think, very importantly for consumer to buy a brand, to consume a brand is whether the brand is easy to read, to recognize. So still back to the brand equity and the DNA of the brand. Whether it's original from China or Western, I mean, it's not so important because about the current consumer, especially young generation, it's about how to express yourself as a consumer, whether the product give you your own identity, so that what I said, whether the brand is easy to be read, it is really important from my view.
I think where does it come from doesn't matter that much. I think it's more the character of the brand that attracts people, because I love to shop myself, and I love a lot of brands. I find within each brand the story behind, the philosophy behind, the creativity behind is more important than where it comes from.
Great. Also, unfortunately, we've run out of time, so there's no more time for questions now, but all three of our panelists will be outside after the next session if you want to chat to them further. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over now to David Gellis for the next conversation.
Thank you.